Alright, so today what we want to do is just sort of catch up and see where we stand with regards to the game design. And, um, you know, we've been working on this for a bit and got this game so that it's moving along. But what we really want to do, what I really want to do right now is start talking about what are the games that you want to create. And let's see if we can't take one of those games and start to put it into practice. Now, you know, we're talking about there are several ways to approach this. One way is as a one player game that you're playing on your computer, at least working through some of the logic and working through some of the different elements of the game. I mean, that makes a lot of sense as a way to start. I will tell you, working on this, I'm right now here on my local computer. Now, we also have it available for playing with other players, and that's important in terms of if you're seeing like where other players are located, what other players' scores are, and in this game, of course, it's a trading game, so there are different ways for you to trade and interact with other players. But you know, I'm depending on what kind of game it is. You know, in many cases, you can simulate having multiple players so that you're working on the logic of the game and how it's working. So what I want you to do is think about what would be a game that you would like to work on so that we can take that on as part of our weekly project. And this could be a game like this where you're moving around, or it could be a word game. You know, I showed you last week concept of the 20 questions, or you could, I mean, you know, there's sort of multiple things that you want to do here, right? One is that you want to develop your programming skill. So one way to do that is, um, you know, looking at something like a game that you've played, like Hangman, right? Hangman is a relatively straightforward concept where a word is generated and then you guess that word. It could be a game like the game of War, you know, where you that's the card game. But what I want you to do is think about what would be a fun game to create, and then we can go through the programming element of that. Now we've gone through how to create a game board. Um, you know, we've talked about. Let's take a look at this, um, and let's just take a look at a few of the elements of this game here. So I am right now on offline, and so I'm just going to enter my name here. This session student is something we've talked about. This is just something that pulls your login ID, but right now I'm offline, so it just shows it. So I'm just going to create an ID here, and I created a bunch of alerts. If you've been starting to work with JavaScript, alerts are a great way to sort of go through the programming. You know, every time it runs a function, you put an alert in there, and that lets you know, oh, that function is about to be run. Okay, so right now that was just one, and you can see that it creates an array. It's an ID. That's actually looks like I've already been in here. Okay, so I select my items and I click update my inventory, and then it takes me back to this map. But what it's done is it's created a new item in the array. So again, this is presuming a knowledge of JavaScript, and we talk about using these arrays. Arrays are ways for you to store information, and everything here is in an array. Let's just take a look at what that array looks like. So this is what an array is. Oh, that's an ugly array. This is what an array looks like. It's not as ugly. And so you see here, it's var players equal, then it uses this bracket, and then each of the different elements, you know, are here. So here's the name, Matthew, his location, there's the ID, and then it starts off with different values. And what I've done here is because I created a situation where it pushed a new record, Fraser, into that array. And so now, even though it starts with this, now the array has two elements, okay? Now, if I refresh my page, it's going to disappear. This doesn't store it. That's what we need a database for. This is just an array within the page. But if you're playing the game yourself, then you can use that. So then let me hide the dashboard. And so here I am. And I can move around. I will tell you that if you're playing our online version right now, there is a little, I don't know if it's a glitch or it's just something that I'm trying to deal with, which is right here, wherever I go, it moves. But with the online version, every 5 seconds, the web page checks the database to see where all the players are. And what happens is I'm moving around like this, fast as a clam. Okay, so we'll talk about that here in a second. I'm moving around fast as a clam, and the problem is that when the database refreshes, it moves me back. Okay, so I'm trying to figure that. You see, it has logic that says you can't move there. You can only move one square immediately ahead of you. So go back to my dashboard. All right, so I'm already dead. Okay, because of this event, it took away a bunch of my energy points. All right. So this is something, what I wanted to show. Let me just refresh. This is a thing that what I was trying to debug, I put in a little alert there. Okay, so Fraser. I'll just put Fraser 2 just to show you that the array changes. Okay, so here, I'm selecting these items, it's adding it to my inventory. So you see here again, the entry that I did earlier for Fraser goes away. So what do I want to show you about this? There are a lot of elements here to this game, and what I probably need to do, honestly, is just go step by step on this particular game. But this is a fairly complicated game, so maybe what we want to do, and I'd really like your feedback. There's sort of two ways for us to go about this. We can go and look at other games and say, how do we do the game, a hangman game? How do we do the game of war? How do we do something like that? Um, and that would be good because we'd be adding new games to our game room. I mean, this is a fairly complicated game, and what we're going to do is take this framework and use it for the game of life. But I would love it if you would think, what would be a game? Let's start off relatively simple, but it can be, it can have a bold vision. But what would be a game that you would be excited about creating? Something that you enjoy playing, and let's take it and think through how would we create that game. So here's my challenge to you this week. I want you to think about a game that you would like to create and message me with it. And then what we'll do is pick one of those for next week. I'll think through how to develop it, and we'll go through next week and we'll start to work on it. And then each week we can be producing a new game while we're working on these big games like the trading game and the game of life behind the scenes. All right, so that's my challenge to you, is to message me with a game idea, a proposal for a game idea. Maybe we'll even vote on it for something that we can develop between starting next week. All right? So, and if you want to, the best thing to do would be, so we're going to play this trading game on Thursday. I'd love for you to join me, play the game, and I'm going to then put up an offline version of the game that you can look at, and you can go in and see the code and see if you can try to figure out, oh, here's how he did this, and here's how he did this. The thing that I'm going to strip out of the offline version is the updating of the database, because that's advanced stuff. It's stuff that we're going to use for your two-player games, anything that you do online, but there's enough craziness going on in this game offline that I think we can that would be a good start. All right, so your challenge this week is to send me your idea for a game that we want to develop, and we'll try to start working on it. All right?